Hey, hey, must be Thursday, Family Matters time. So if only we publicized the back room chatter between Kevin and I. You guys, I mean, we were just talking about how easy Kevin's job is. That anyone can do it.
That's true. It's absolutely true. I don't know why they require graduate school hours, exams. That's just it's a shakedown for money.
Yeah, I mean, it's just they just want to waste your time. I mean, like most people. I mean, obviously, so they want to make it appear like it's important. But anyway, how is Kevin doing?
I'm doing good. Today is my 1 month mark at Jaywalker Lodge as the director of family services. So, I'm still there. they still like me.
So wow. Yeah. Give it a little time. You kind of wait. Sometimes it takes 60, 90 days for the true Kevin Petersen to sink in. But we got football starting tonight, so that kind of should be whetting your appetite. It doesn't give you full, but anytime football preseason or whatever it is starts, I get a little excited. I don't watch the preseason, but it's you can start to smell football in the air at least. So
well, I've been watching Hard Knocks, and that's been pretty awesome.
Well, some are sicker than others. I don't even do that. But
sure. It's just because it's not your team. Oh my God, there's a game tonight. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm not even joking.
Hey, all right. Yeah.
I mean, it's only the Bears, so it's not really a team, but
well, now that they have the world's greatest quarterback ever from the world's greatest college ever, I'm sure they'll do really well,
But well, anyway, let's get right into it. I don't even want to talk about it. The diehard Packer fan.
Yeah, how much money did you pay that Jordan Love guy?
A lot. So we got a couple of questions. So we may not be occupying too much of your time, but all right. So we get a lot of over the weeks and over the months, people kind of wanted to get your opinion when you have people decreasing their usage. Do you consider that a win when you have, depends, I guess, with the background. This specific one this week, there's an obvious drug and alcohol abuse issue. There's been treatment in the past. There's been issues where drug and alcohol have had severe negative consequences in their lives. Now, this is a wife saying he's cut back on his drinking. Do I consider this a win, or how do you handle that?
Oh, you're asking me? So, okay. Yes. So what she's talking about is what we call harm reduction, right? What the hell is going on in the background?
All of a sudden, someone's tried to do construction, I guess.
Okay. I was like, did you get a dog or something? Or you got somebody trapped in the closet? Did you start dating again?
God dang.
Sorry, that was too
it literally just started out of the blue. It hasn't, anyway.
All right. So, okay. So I don't want to diminish anyone's forward progress. Is it good that he's lowered the amount that he's drinking and doing drugs? Sure. My question to you is, how's his behavior? Is he being, is he present for the kids? Is he present for you? Is he making money? Does he, is he polite? Is he nice? Is he helpful? Is he considerate? And my concept or my world, the ultimate goal would be to get him to not drink or use for 30 days and see how it goes, and if that path towards that is through harm reduction and moderation, fine, we'll try it. Because one of two things is going to happen. He's going to get it together and be like, I got this. Thanks so much. You're the greatest. Or it's not going to work. And when I say it's not going to work, I don't mean in the next 24 hours, it's all going to go to hell in a handbasket. I mean, over time, he's going to try to portray himself as, oh, I'm totally got this under control. And it's not. It's not happening. It may take a month, 3 months, 6 months. But that's the only thing I would say is pay attention to the big picture, the long term. And remember, just not drinking or drinking less or using less, that's not the goal. The goal was to change the behavior. So you have to tell us whether or not those things are occurring.
Well, perfect answer.
Yeah.
So we have another. We were talking about genograms before the show, but
what's that?
And anyway, this is a deep dive. But so we have an interesting. So we have. I think it's a female, but so she is. She's intrigued by the fact that she has alcoholism all throughout her family. I think she's in early 20s, I think she said, or something. And I don't know if I get this a lot, but she's just curious as to why. I mean, that she is, I guess what she's asking, is it hereditary? Is it in the genes? Is this something that's going to sneak up on her? I mean, it's like, she's basically asking, like, why is it that seem to be able to control my 2 glasses of wine and leave a half glass of wine, and my whole family is getting arrested and having issues with alcohol?
I'm thinking about a friend of mine that one time spoke at a conference, and he's like, when you're talking to people who just don't get us and don't understand, and you're like, well, everybody goes to jail, and they look at you like, what? what do you mean everybody? I've never been to jail. I was like, yeah, dude, I totally get it, man. I totally get it. So here's the age-old conversation, right? I mean, is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it, what's the term they use now? Epigenetics or something like that? I don't want to make sure I'm not saying the racist concept, but I think it's called something like that. Good Lord, I hope I didn't just step on that landmine. But the meaning, so let's go through the 3, right? Okay, here's the deal. A year and a half ago, I sat down with my buddy, Kevin McCauley, and we were having this conversation, and he's like, well, the standard answer has always been nature, nurture, nature being it's genetic, but it doesn't it's not like, it's genetic for each person. It's just, some people get it, some people don't, and that's just how it works. My grandma, my dad's mom, was an alcoholic. My uncle died of being an alcoholic. My dad was not an alcoholic. My mom was a prescription drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. My sister, not an alcoholic, but you can see where it passes through. So there's definitely a nature component. Nurture. So when you're brought up in a weird environment where, there's all sorts of interesting things going on in the family system, such as covering for people, or it's become like it's acceptable. Like, oh, this is no big, like a family like hers will have let's just call it a higher level of tolerance for drug and alcohol use and the behavior that goes with it. Okay. And they'll be like, what's the big deal? Whereas a family that doesn't have that tolerance level is like, are you crazy? This is insane. There were cops on your doorstep last night and your kids in the clink. And, again, and it's like, what? The chaos that comes with it. But then there's this other piece where we're really starting to understand that trauma plays a massive part in here's my belief. You can't manufacture an alcoholic, okay, or an addict. Although I would say we could probably have an interesting conversation about OxyContin and heroin. But the point being, everybody has trauma. Everyone grows up with a certain level of trauma. There's a ACE study that you can take and figure out what your trauma numbers are and all that sort of thing. I think what trauma does is make you more susceptible. I mean, this has been the proof of the study, is that people that have a higher ACE score, which is accumulated childhood experiences, and one of the things that they show is they have a higher incidence of substance abuse and addiction and incarceration and da-da-da-da-da-da. So does trauma make you an addict? No, because everybody would be an addict. But there are certain people that treat their trauma by self-medicating. And the funny thing about the people that self-medicate their trauma, some people can pull out of that and some people can't. The ones that can't, we call addicts and alcoholics. And so my position is trauma doesn't make you an addict or an alcoholic, but it certainly can hurry up the process of finding out whether or not you are. Does that make any sense at all?
That's fascinating. I mean, I've heard this before, but do we know or have any clue as to why some can't, or why some deal with trauma differently?
That's where we still haven't sort of figured out the whole. I am not a science guy. Okay, when I quit my job in 2007 to go back to graduate school, I was talking to one of my best friends who's in the program who went back to be a nurse, and he's like, how do you feel about science? I'm like, I hate it. He's like, okay, nursing's out. And so therapy was where I was headed. So I'm not the science guy. And I don't know enough. I've seen lectures. I've heard people talk. I can turn you on to amazing podcasts where people have this conversation that are much smarter than me in that world. What I know at the end of the day is when somebody shows up and says, I'm struggling with drugs and alcohol in my life, I know a solution to that. And it starts with, not drinking and not using. And then we can get to the mental health issues, and then we can get to the trauma. We can't address those things if you're using. So that's kind of how I always put it.
Well, it's also interesting though, too, because when we talk about all this trauma, and mental health illness and, addiction or something, this all falls into this category of family secrets. All too often, families aren't even talking about all the things going on within those family trees. So there's often cases where, most generations may not even know that, past generations have dealt with mental illness, and there's all these secrets that no one wants to talk about that could help, even within therapy and so forth. Yeah. Sometimes this hits home just because of we went through training right in your backyard at Jaywalker. I mean, and it's interesting to me that, it sounds so simple, but, my refusal to kind of even take a look at my family tree and how past generations have handled or history, I've never taken that into, therapy or recovery or anything like that. I've never looked at the family strengths or anything like that. So it's just, it's new on my brain, and it's fascinating, but that falls into the family secrets that no one wants to talk about.
Right. Exactly. And then the other thing that it's yes, they keep the secrets, like they know it's something they should share and they don't want to because they know how bad it's going to look. And then the other side of that is they, like I said earlier, they become so used to the drama and the chaos and the crisis that they just they're like, oh, did you need to hear about that? Okay. I just took it for granted. And you're like, you got to be kidding, right? I mean, you have to be kidding me that you would think that I wouldn't want to know about the death of your infant child, or that your son was a twin and his twin got killed in a car accident when he was 3. Well, that was so long ago. I'm like, and these, those are real things, you're not, I'm not making that stuff up. It's like, okay, but I get it. They have kind of compartmentalized that and put it up on the shelf.
Yeah.
And so you have to explain how that incident, that trauma, and then how the family system responded to it has contributed to the behavior of the family today, and particularly the behavior of the individual that's struggling with substance abuse.
Yeah. Just a simple fact is, my mom's dad died when she was very young, and then my dad's dad died when I was very young. And so it just, when I hear people have this very close relationship with their grandpas and they go fishing with their grandpa or anything like that, it just never clicks in my head, because I never had grandpa or anything. And when I started thinking about that just simple fact, it hit me that I never once had this thought like, you know what? I've never had a relationship with a grandpa. I don't have that fishing with grandpa story or anything like that. I just, like what you're saying, that just was normal to me. Like I don't have a relationship with a grandpa. That's just a normal in my life, and I just move on. And I just never processed like, oh, I wonder what it would be like to have a relationship with a grandpa. But like you were saying, I don't even think about it. It's just normal in my life.
I totally understand. My grandfather, my dad's dad, had Parkinson's from as long as I could remember, and like was bedridden, and it was just this long, slow, awful, terrible death. And then my mom's dad, he lived into his 90s, but he was very shut down and rigid. And, he had 2 daughters, right? And I think he desperately wanted a son. So here's some family dynamics, right? I mean, we're going down the road. What the hell? My mom did not like her parents. She really struggled with them. And so we didn't, even though they lived like 10 minutes away from us, we didn't spend very much time with them. So there was always this kind of, like, you don't want to go see your grandparents, do you? And it's like, no, why would I? And, and there was this weird, goofy dynamic. And so I kind of grew up with no relationship with him either. And then ironically, when I was in college, he started writing me letters. And I mean, I was just like really moved by them. They were like, I'm so proud of you. You're going to college. Blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, what, the hell is this? And I mean, I didn't know how to respond to it. And I was deep into my addiction and my alcoholism. And I was just like, blah, And it's sad because I missed an opportunity probably to have a connection with a pretty fascinating guy. That grandfather was an accountant for the McLeod Lumber Company in McLeod, California, up at the base of Mount Shasta.
Wow.
And that was, kind of a weird world that my mom grew up in. And when she would say, she literally, when she was like, I walked 5 miles in the snow uphill to go to school both ways. She literally did, It's like, damn, okay. But then she's like, well, we skied. It wasn't that bad.
Well, all righty. Well, keep the questions coming.
Okay.
Got anything else anything I think we kind of hit on some really good topics, I think. So we got a couple of questions, but I think we kind of slipped into some interesting topics for people to chew on, I think.
It's a marriage and family systems and dynamics concept.
I mean, seeing that we're on the same level now, we're both.
I mean, you went to a weekend refresher course, so
so I'll still like look up to you, but we're pretty much on the same level.
I am a huge fan of the Arise program. Let me be clear.
I kid because I care, but anyway, I'll see you next week. We are not on the same level. Don't send me letters. All right. Bye.